I'm Tony Northrup, and for my Lightroom video training series, I've brought Chelsea into the studio to test out Lightroom's tethering capabilities. And today we're going to be going over both wired tethering with a USB cable and wireless tethering with Wi-Fi. So the first thing we want to do is connect our camera into the computer and fire up Lightroom. And exactly how you get the camera to communicate with the computer varies depending on the model, and you might also have to check out Adobe's list of cameras that are officially supported for tethering, because not all cameras are supported, and a lot of new cameras aren't actually supported either. Make sure yours is on the list before you try this. If not, the Wi-Fi feature will definitely work. Now that we have Lightroom going, I'll just go up to the File menu here and select Tethered Capture and then Start Tethered Capture. It prompts me for some settings which are actually really useful because you can control the naming of it, you can set keywords. For example, I can add Chelsea to this since I know she's in the studio, and anything else that allows you to categorize the work that you're doing. And if you're a studio professional, if you're working in the studio all the time, this can really speed up your post-production because you don't have to worry about labeling things. So now I'll click OK. And this panel appears, which, there you go, it just detected my camera, so now it sees that I have a Nikon D610 set up. These settings are all read-only, so I can't change the settings from here. I still have to use the camera, but there is one setting I can control, and that's the develop settings. So you can create a preset and have it automatically applied as you pull pictures in. Now, I don't want any changes other than the default to come in, so I'm all ready to go, and I will now turn around and take a picture of Chelsea. So as I take the picture, the camera transfers the picture over the USB cable to the computer. And this, as you can see, takes a few seconds, especially because I'm shooting RAW. These are 24 megabit files. The RAW files tend to be like 30 megabytes, 35 megabytes, so that's actually a lot of data to transfer through a USB 2 cable. Some newer cameras support USB 3, and this will all move along much quicker. But at the moment, Lightroom doesn't support the D810, which does support USB 3, so we're still moving along a little bit slow. One way you can make that faster is to shoot JPEG instead of RAW, because JPEG's files are smaller, they will transfer over quicker. But of course, if you're in the studio, you probably also want to edit your pictures until you kind of necessarily need to shoot RAW, right? Now there are some advantages to this for the workflow. They're not being recorded to the camera's internal card. So that means I don't even have to transfer them over later. They're already on my computer. I can also have an art director at the computer double checking everything. They can go through and double check critical focus, really look at the picture closely and make sure that the model's hands aren't posed incorrectly, or there's not a loose button or flyaways. You know, somebody else can really inspect the pictures and give me feedback in real time. That person can also rate and delete pictures in real time, allowing you to immediately know at the end of the shoot which pictures are keepers, and giving you just far fewer pictures to sort through. So that's about all there is to USB tethering. Connect your camera and take some pictures, and they get automatically offloaded and they're already in Lightroom. Wi-Fi works a little bit differently. So this camera doesn't have Wi-Fi built in. I do have a Canon 70D that has Wi-Fi, so I'll unplug this and switch over to the Canon. Wireless tethering eliminates that USB cable, and that's kind of a big deal, because if you have a cable running from your camera to a computer, at some point you're gonna trip over it, or you're gonna forget and you're gonna walk away. And then you know what happens? Your USB cable drags your computer off of the platform, or it unplugs, or somebody trips and falls and hits a light. Anyway, the fewer cables in your studio, the better. So Wi-Fi works pretty well, except that Wi-Fi can be even slower. So we've put a wireless access point in the studio itself so we can get the strongest possible wireless signal. Now for Wi-Fi tethering, you don't actually use the tethering feature in Lightroom. Instead, you're going to use the auto import feature. Lightroom has a feature where it will just look at a folder on your computer, and any pictures that suddenly appear, it will automatically process and show them to you. So the end result is about the same. With your Wi-Fi capabilities and some software on your Mac or PC, you're just going to set it up to talk to your camera and copy the files to the correct folder. Now I'm using a Canon, and therefore I'm using the EOS utility to receive the images wirelessly, but every camera is a little bit different. Some cameras have Wi-Fi, but they don't have a PC tool to transfer it, like kind of Panasonic and Olympus have Wi-Fi, but don't transfer directly to a PC. Other cameras, like the older Canon 1s and Nikon 3s and 4s, will support like a wireless module that will send pictures through FTP. However you can get your pictures to your computer, Using the auto import feature, you can create a tethering situation. And I've configured the Canon EOS software on this computer to save all files from this camera to a particular folder. Now I'll go into Adobe Lightroom here, open up the File menu, go to the Auto Import menu, and then select Auto Import Settings. Here I can configure the watched folder. This is the folder that it's going to read the files from. That's the folder that I've configured the Canon EOS software to save to. The destination folder is where Lightroom saves the processed files. So every time you take a picture, Lightroom takes the picture out of the folder that it's saved in and moves it to a different folder. So your incoming folder should pretty much always be empty after pictures have processed for a couple of seconds. So you always have to have these two folders. You also have the options to change the file name and apply develop settings and add in metadata just like you do for other types of imports. So once you have those, you can click OK. And then make sure that auto import is turned on. Go to the File menu, select Auto Import, and make sure the Enable Auto Import checkbox here is selected. Even if you're not using it all the time, it's okay just to leave it on. It just means Lightroom is kind of watching that one folder for any incoming files, but if there's no new files, it's not going to do anything. So with all that set up, I'll take a picture of Chelsea. Now it's flying through the air, hitting my wireless access point, flying through the air again and coming to the computer, and here you can see it's starting to pop up. Now I've configured this camera to take JPEG pictures because it's so slow that RAW files, sometimes they can even take more than a minute just to transfer over. So I have like medium resolution JPEGs, and that's not normally what I would shoot in the studio. So for that reason, Wi-Fi in the studio might not be a good fit for the types of work that you do in the studio. Wired tethering is usually better, even though wires are a pain. I guess what I'm saying is tethering in general can be kind of a pain. You really have to assess whether it's worth the trouble. If you go for one of the high-end cameras like a Canon 1DX or a Nikon D4S, they will actually have an Ethernet port on them, like a gigabit Ethernet port that's much faster than either USB 2 or Wi-Fi, and that can really speed up the process quite a bit. So if you're serious about it, do check out those high-end cameras. I hope you find this helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me at tony@northrup.org. Thanks.